What's going on, everyone? This is Mark here with Anastacio Union Martial Arts, Bias Tres Manos, whole lot of things, whole lot of people. Once again, I know this is a little different. Most of you might be expecting technique videos. Don't worry, they're coming. I just wanted to put out something and try to just, freshen it up a little bit, and especially because of our latest project at Anastacio, I think this is kind of fitting to hopefully give you guys a better idea of what it is we're actually trying to do here. Real quick, before we get into this Q&A, I wanted to talk about the elite access that's going to be available from anastaciocali.com, and that's going to pertain to our online memberships or our online tutorials in FMA. So up to this point, we've had what we call the basic access, which gave you 2 tutorials per month, and then we bumped it up to the premium access, which gives you 4 lessons per month, which is 1 per week. And all those are essentially what I teach here at the Academy at Union Martial Arts. But it also gives you a 3-month archive. 4 months in total, current plus the 3 prior. That would be your premium access. Now, all of those were building up to the original game plan that I had when I decided to launch Anastacio online. And that was what we call the elite access. So the elite access is pretty much the top of the top. And one of my goals with Anastacio was not to just be able to teach Filipino martial arts, but be able to share it and pretty much give the academy experience that my students get as closely as I can to people all over the world, which is obviously a very difficult thing because there's always going to be limitations to videos, but there are ways that we can kind of work around it and get it, if not equal, it's going to be really, really close. And this is just one of the things that I wanted to do, not just for myself, but for Filipino martial arts in general. I feel like there's a particular appearance, or there's a particular face to Filipino martial arts, and I kind of wanted to change that a little bit. I just wanted to be able to share a little bit more perspective on the art and see that as more than just swinging sticks and knives, and really show the benefits that I can give people, especially through my method of teaching. So that is launching very soon, guys. I'm super excited. I hope you guys are gonna hop on with me. It's going to be limited to 10 people to start, so we can just iron out the little kinks that we're gonna experience naturally as we first launch it. But basically what you're gonna get is the biggest difference between an elite access versus basic or premium. You still get the 4 lessons. This time you get a yearly archive, so you get 12 months prior. Pretty much all of the videos are going to be available to you. You also get to submit video format feedback, which is super important. So essentially, elite members can record themselves doing the lessons that are on the current cycle, the current month, and then they can submit that, and then either myself or a certified AKA instructor will be able to comment feedback, give you points, and maybe clarify some things through a written format. But then we're going to take those and then we're going to discuss it and maybe even review it, train it, correct it in a live 30-minute session bi-weekly. So that's twice a month. That'll be personally with me to start with these 10 members, and as we grow to fulfill the numbers and make sure that everyone gets their appropriate time, then the rest of the AKA certified instructors will hop on as well. So that video format is really, really important, so I can see you guys. I can make sure that I'm watching all the small little details like I do with my students, and I think that's a very important thing. It's not just showing you how to do it, but it's helping you correct and improve it, and that requires a very personal bond between myself and students. So with that live format that I spoke of, we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to touch base on small things when it comes down to techniques, to even large things like just helping you guys understand a little bit more of the AKA principles, the theory and the application behind it, why we do it this way versus that way. And then it'll make more sense when you do the lessons, because now you have a little bit more insight as to why it's done this way or how it's being taught this way, and so on and so forth. So super excited, guys. The date is not set in stone yet, but we're hoping in the next couple weeks, because I want to launch it in June. So stay tuned for that. Everything is below. Quick preview on it. FAQ is all on anastaciocali.com, and that's about it. So let's get into the Q&A. These questions are from students, they're from online members, they're from subscribers, they're from Instagram. So I didn't pick a lot of them, but I just wanted to get some that are going to be particularly helpful in the launch of Elite Access. Alright, so question number 1. Are you Filipino? Yes. Okay, to more personal questions, but along the lines of martial arts. How long have you been training? So I have been training Filipino martial arts since, I want to say 2008, 2009. Just to give you guys a quick history, because when you look back at it, or if you just hear me say that, it doesn't sound like a long time. And I feel like I've been doing this since I learned how to walk. So back in the old days, if you would call it that, my instructor, as well as his instructor, kind of the standard was 2 years to black belt. So I went through that 2-year. It was actually called like an accelerated program. But think of it this way, because this is a very important topic, and this is why I chose this question. So if I started, let's say in 2009, I'll just say 2009 to be generous, but that means that this is my 11th year. And technically, under Grand Maestro John Baez of Baez Tres Manos, I am a 6th degree maestro, so that's the equivalent of a master in Kali. Which, you know, when you look at the paper duration, I'm far from being a qualified maestro. But this is the thing that I want everyone to understand, and this is one of the things that is you know, a foundation of Anastacio Kali. Even though we're not really looking at formal rankings for premium access, elite access and stuff, I'll touch base on that on another video, or comment below if you want to know more. I have been training for 11 years, and majority of those years, I would say 9 years out of those 11, I train every single day, 5-6 hours a week. On my off time, I study it. I make content. I'm surrounded by this 24/7. No breaks, no nothing. Like the most break that you would see is maybe I went on a 1-week vacation. But aside from that, I've been more consistent than I would say 90% of martial artists, because it's my job, because it's my career, which I'm fortunate for. So oftentimes when they say, you know, you have to be X amount of years to be a black belt, and then from 1st degree to 2nd degree, another X amount of years. But time is a man-made construct, or whatever it is. Time is subjective, because you could be training for 20 years, but only show up for an hour every week, right? So for those 10 years, you get an hour every week. That means every month, you're only spending 4 hours actually training, and then you're off doing anything else in your life. My 1 year is the equivalent to an average martial artist, like 5 years span. So in those, doing that 9 years, that's where I get my experience from. On that note as well, you know, it's like I said, time is very hard to depict if someone is qualified, if someone deserves a particular rank. And to be honest with you guys, my rank doesn't really mean too much to me. It's more of a personal milestone, not something to like prove my worth. My worth is always shown through what I do, what I'm capable of, and what I give out back to the community, to my students, to you guys on YouTube. So I don't really care if you think that I should be this rank, that rank. I don't mind if you call me Sifu, Guru, Maestro, Sir, whatever it is, because at the end of the day, it's about my product, and it's about my ability to teach and demonstrate Filipino martial arts, and time can't really depict that for me. So on that topic, here's another question that I got, and it is, how long does it take to be a black belt, or in our case, a black sash, instructor level, if you would call it that? So, like I said in the past clip, it took me about 2 years to be a 1st degree black belt in Kung Tao and in Kali, which are the 2 Filipino martial arts that we train here. That is kinda... It worked out for me, although I do admit that to become the instructor of a high standard that I carry, it has taken me years to become that. So the AKA standard, the Anastacio Kali standard, it's going to take an individual from start to finish about 5.5 years. And here's the reason why I say that. It's not show up for 5.5 years, is through my experience seeing my instructors under me grow from nothing to the instructor who I know is qualified to teach and is able to conduct themselves a particular way that I feel confident in teaching my students or strangers. It's taking them about 6 to 6.5 years, and that's being generous, because I knew they were ready before that. It was just a matter of them maturing, because they came to me as young kids. and they grew up into teenagers and now into young men. So that technically they were there, but maturity-wise, which is also a very important factor in considering a black belt, especially one that's an instructor to have. So for us, it's about 5.5 years. Could be sooner, it could be later. It really depends on your abilities technically and your proficiency in that sense, but also in the way you conduct yourselves, like I said, in your ability to teach a class, to be that staple figure in an academy or on the mats that people can turn to, feel that they can ask you a question and will be ridiculed for it, and be able to, you know, look to you for guidance and advice. And those are a lot of the qualities I look for in my black sashes and my instructors, which is something I wanted to do for my Elite Access members going forward. Again, it took me 2 years. It took some of my students 5.5 years. I have a student who, I mean, like, things have been delayed now due to the pandemic and all, but he's on his way for his black sash this year, and me and him have been training for about 2 years. I'm not going to hold someone back from getting a black sash if they are qualified by all the criteria we look for. It'd be a disservice as an instructor and a disservice, you know, as a human being, I feel, to not award someone something that they deserve when I have the power to do so, right? Because, you know, oftentimes you see people get promotions that they don't deserve. You see people get things that they don't necessarily deserve, and someone else does, but unfortunately it's out of their hands. And that's one of the big reasons why I did start Anastacio Khalid, because I do belong to World Bias Stress Manos, and I still do, but I wanted to make sure that my opinions and the way that I teach it's wholeheartedly mine, and I'm not just doing it this way, or I'm not following this standard because somebody told me to. Because at the end of the day, these are my students. They represent me and they represent what I believe in, that can propel them forward to become their own instructor, become their own maestro, and so on and so forth. So to answer, that was the long form, short form, roughly 5.5 years, depending on your consistency and your progression. All right, next question. This one's a little bit more generic, if you will, but what is my favorite, stick, blade, or empty hand? So let's, for the sake of debate, we're gonna say blade is a knife, because stick can be stick, sword, and so on and so forth. But my personal favorite is empty hand. I'm not sure if you can see that from my videos. If I had to rank it, it's very difficult because I'm very much for the whole systematic approach of things, but I would say empty hand, knife, stick, especially single stick. Double stick's probably my least favorite. Here's the reason why. So like I said, I was raised on Kuntao, which is kind of like in our particular Kuntao, because there's different versions of it. Ours is very much like a blend of Shotokan karate and aspects from like Filipino martial arts and Kung Fu, soft style. That was actually my bread and butter when I first started. I actually was not good at Kali. When I started martial arts, I was pretty physical already, so I had these physical attributes to carry me through. I came from a dancing background, so my coordination, my flexibility was pretty solid as well. I kind of gravitated towards punches and kicks more, and I became more in tune with my body and working on those particular aspects. Slowing it down and looking at the intricacies, I didn't have the patience when I started. But as I grew, it kind of shifted over. Now that I'm getting older, I love Kali 10 times more because of how far my brain can expand, and I really feel like my IQ and my intelligence has just reached so far ahead because of the way that Kali makes my brain work. And I carry that with Kuntao as well. But when it comes to empty hand, one of the things that I love the most is that when I look at combat, whether it's for self-defense or for sport, I look at what do I have when I'm stripped of everything, and it's my 2 hands and my 2 feet. I can't think of anything more equal than someone that has 2 hands and 2 feet versus another person with 2 hands and 2 feet. Weapons are what we call the equalizer, and sometimes without skill, with a little bit of luck and intent, the person with a weapon can win, or even when it's weapon versus weapon. It kind of changes the tone a little bit. It makes me respect the small little details of everything, right? I don't want to be seen as someone that can just swing a stick super fast, or you know, that knows how to thrust a knife or whatnot. When I look at grappling, when I look at striking, and even when I look at those particular attributes that are required, and I transfer it to the single stick with the knife, I look at, you know, what muscles are being used, what positional and functional movement can I train to make this stronger? Because at the end of the day, whether you have 10 basic strikes, 5 basic strikes, 24, 65 count, whatever it is, it doesn't matter if you can't apply it. And applying is much more than being able to twist a stick from side to side. It's being able to know what to pull on certain muscles to make your movement a little bit more efficient. And that's one of the big things why in Anastacio, if you train with us, or if you watch my technique videos, I talk a lot and I say a lot of structural things and I say a lot of things aside from the actual strike, because that's the easy part, that's the creative part. But the scientific part of it, the structural side of it, those are things that people often kind of push to the side and never look at it again. And that's what I feel like makes me better, is I look at that wholeheartedly without any ego, without any a biased opinion, and that makes my basics better than other people's basics because of the attentiveness that I have to it, or the attention to detail that I spend on how to pivot my foot, how to throw one shoulder and pull the other one back, how to create momentum and force and all those other things. Yeah, I would say empty hands is my favorite, and you know, that combining with a brief time that I spent in jiu-jitsu, it just makes it all worthwhile to see everything come together in one basic yet complex motion. Alright guys, last question. Who wins in a fight? Filipino martial artist versus grappler? And I use grappler. They actually said Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I'm just saying grappler. So wrestler, shoot wrestling, whatever kind you want, sambo. Who wins in a fight? I know my fellow Filipino martial artists are gonna hate me, but I think the grappler is gonna win. And here, let me explain this. Okay, let's talk about in general, if they had the equivalent amount of skill, which is very hard to calculate anyways, because look, when you have a Filipino martial arts, you can come from a Panantukan system, or even just like a strict Kuntao, where it's just hand and feet, or you can come from a blade system, you can come from a short range, a long range, you come from a double stick system, so on and so forth. So it's really hard to calculate an equivalency in terms of skill. Because how do you gauge the differences of skill from each system or each preference? Because if you had an equivalent skill all around, then I would say the Filipino martial artist, because there are aspects of weaponry that obviously the grappler can't have. But again, let's go back to 2 hands and 2 feet, because you don't necessarily need a lot of skill to use the weapon. So if we're talking 2 hands and 2 feet, the grappler I think is going to win just because of the physicality. There's no one on this planet that's going to outwork a wrestler. And here's what I found in my study through the difference between Filipino martial arts and let's say even Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Filipino martial arts, especially empty hand, is very nice and light. It's very weapon based. So you have like guntings, you have a lot of parrying, you have a lot of quick, intricate sequences. But in the reality of close contact, it's very hard to create that distance or to be as free. So yeah, you can strike someone's eyes or hit them in the groin and all that stuff, but once someone gets a hold of you, can you get out of that? Do you have the physicality, not just technically to get out of it, but do you have the physical strength to be able to outwork this person? Someone who's constantly on top of you, someone who's pinning you down, holding you, squeezing you for minutes on end, you know, placing pressure on you. Like top pressure, it's immense. And I think that's going to be the deciding factor on how the Filipino martial artist is going to get, how he's going to lose rather. Let's say get loose, but how he or she is going to lose, because that's just not something that we look at too much, which I think is very important, that a lot of Filipino martial arts based people should, you know, look at what happens if they close the distance. Look at what happens if your technique can't be as clean. You can't hide behind a weapon all the time. You know, in a lot of cases, especially in today's age, I mean, maybe like a pocket knife or a switchblade, but you're not going to walk around with a sword, or most people, at least here, it's illegal to have a collapsible baton if you're not law enforcement or security, so you're not going to have a stick on you, right? And will there be a tree that you can break off the branch and start whacking someone? Who knows? But when it comes down to 2 hands and 2 feet, once again, the distance is going to be closed. If there's going to be an engagement, the distance is going to be closed. And if you're not comfortable with that grittiness, if you're not comfortable with being in a particular position, pinned against a wall, resistance, you won't be able to get out of that situation, and the grappler will outwork you and get you into a position where you're either going to give up and they start ground and pounding you, or they're going to submit you if they're submission based. So that is my final answer. I don't know if that's something that you guys were expecting, that as wholeheartedly I am about Filipino martial arts, that I would say we would lose. But that's just, you know, an honest opinion, and that's something, again, that I try to incorporate into Anastacio Kali without making it a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blend. Because I'm not qualified to teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I do spend enough time outside of Filipino martial arts to rethink the way that I do things, to make sure that it works, to make sure that, you know, it's expandable, you can build on it, whether you come from this background or that background, whether you're this type of physical stature or you're this person, you're young, you're old, so on and so forth. And that's a big part to my empty hand system, and I try to carry as much as I can back into the knives and the sticks. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this little Q&A. If you guys have any more questions and you want another one, make sure you comment below. Hope you guys are staying safe at this time. Wash your hands, wear a mask, do whatever you need to. It's not a permanent means of life, it's just a temporary transition, and to make that transition safely back into a normal or a new normal, even if that is, you know, you can't be ignorant to these safety protocols and whatnot. So that's a lot of what I'm doing right now, so I apologize for the lack of videos. But definitely guys, check out anastaciokali.com, the FAQ, if you guys have any questions or you're curious about the accesses that we have here, basic, premium, elite. And also check out Elite if you guys are interested, whether you are a current member or you're going to be a new member. Because again, there's only going to be 10 spots, guys, and it's going to be super, super dope. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you want more Q&A, more questions, more podcasts. I haven't done one in so long. I see a lot of you guys are still unsubscribed if you guys are watching this. So let's get this not just this video, but let's get this channel to 60,000 subs. A lot of us are spending more time at home. Well, not so much now, but you know, let's get this channel to 60,000 subs. I would appreciate that. So that's about it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, I'll catch you guys then.